Hi! Gay culture needs to be cancelled. And I know what you're already thinking, wow, the internalized homophobia in this one is very strong. But before you think that, just hear me out for a minute, okay? I do want to preface this video by saying I have only lived in a few major cities and many small towns in the United States. So this is me speaking on my own experiences that have, obviously formed my opinions and my beliefs revolving around gay culture. I had this before I turned the camera on. I also want to say I am speaking on gay male culture in the United States. I'm not talking about, the umbrella of LGBTQ+. I just mean gay male culture. And I can only speak from my own experience, so please understand that throughout the rest of this video. A lot of gay people spend their entire lives being very, very heavily abused by their parents, by their friends, by the rest of their family members. It can be constant and it can be from all directions. You're constantly being told that you're a bad, evil, horrible person, and that can really change someone's personality and change someone's perspective on the world and how they treat others. Oftentimes, people who are very heavily abused do two main things, and of course, these aren't the only two things, but again, just in my own experience, these are the things that I have noticed. People who are very heavily abused will tend to become more meek and become more accepting of abuse and maybe not necessarily be aware that that's not a normal part and shouldn't be accepted into their life, the abuse that they're constantly experiencing. But it's their way of dealing with it and just, understanding that that's the way they're going to be treated now. Other people become the abuser in order to get past the pain and constant hatred that's being thrown their way. They have to rise above it, and so they keep themselves on a pedestal where they feel they can no longer be harmed. And while that does feel effective, it's shallow and lifeless. When a lot of gay people first come out of the closet, their families and friends abandon them and their whole life really shifts. And it's common that the only place that gay people can seek refuge is with other members of the community. And so they really look up to these other people to kind of guide them and lead them. And I know that in my youth, this was something that I did experience a lot. I really wanted to meet other gay men to understand how to navigate the world because I didn't really have an idea of how. Because the world doesn't teach a gay person how to navigate. It doesn't teach them how to be. We really have to learn it on our own or learn it from other people like us. And that's one of the biggest problems because a lot of factors in gay culture that exist within it exist almost as a subconscious way of combating the abuse that we have experienced. I've lived in and spent a lot of time in the Dallas, Texas area, the New Orleans area, all across the state of Oklahoma and New Mexico, some more western and southern states, and no matter where I go, my experience always seems to be the same. People don't really seem to be that different no matter what area I'm in. And I never really fit in with straight people because they didn't understand me, and let's be honest, I don't really understand them. And I never really fit in with gay people because even though I am a gay man, I don't feel any sort of connection with anything that gay men tend to be interested in or their thought processes, anything like that. I've just never really felt like this community. We call it the gay community and we call it the LGBT plus community. But in my opinion, the gay community, to me, has been more vile and vicious and violent toward me than the straight community that I was trying so hard to get away from. Gay men often tend to idolize and, shape who they see themselves as based on, so I worded that a little off. They shape themselves based on these idols that they have. So we've got divas in the music industry like Mariah Carey, Madonna, Britney Spears. And then we've got these divas in reality shows like The Real Housewives. And we already know from the videos, oftentimes these people don't treat others with respect. They trash others behind their back. They lie to get attention. They sit on their high horse and look down on you. Honey, You know what I'm talking about. That sort of behavior is extremely common, and it's extremely constant. It's constant how many gay men I know act like that toward others, and the community as a whole really seems very accepting of that type of person and that type of individual. And if you don't really fit into that mold, there are little like subcategories for you to go into, if that makes any sense. You know, I used to be a very thin guy, and I would shave my body and therefore be called a twink. And if you're a twink, people, I guess, just expect you to be a certain type of way. And so people would commonly, you know, invite me into their friend group to hang out with them, and find out very quickly that I was nothing like them, and then start trashing me to others because, you know, they thought I was weird or something, because instead of gossiping about that girl's outfit across the room, mind you, I don't know her. I don't care what she's wearing. I don't care what her dress looks like. I don't care if her shoes match. I didn't even know that they didn't match until you said that. I think it looks fine. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not that type of person. And in my experience, most gay men are that type of person, to just trash some random person based on their fashion choices at a club. And I didn't really vibe with that, and I am the type of person to speak out about it. So that is a real example of something that happened, and it caused a huge fight with me and a few gay men who I had just met and been friends with for a few weeks. And after that, they didn't really like me anymore, because I went off and I was like, you don't know her, you don't need to be trashing her. Have you seen your own outfit sometimes? You don't always look that great. So let's stop talking crap about whoever she is. And that put me in the wrong, you know what I mean? For acting like them toward them, because, you know, nobody likes to see their own flaws thrown back in their direction. I was once at a bar in New Orleans, and these guys invited me to go hang out with them, and they were gay. They all seemed super nice, and I was like, okay, cool, I'll go hang out with you. And, you know, I went to a house party with them, and they all just started doing cocaine and, like, having an orgy. So I called an Uber and left. They're all kind of rude when they discovered I was not going to do cocaine with them or have sex with them. That experience only happened one time, but I've had very similar experiences to that all throughout my time there and in Dallas, and even in the small town that I live in now, with saying no to people. If you say no to a man, straight or gay, I have learned this. It's like it's in high school, or it's like we're in high school all over again. If a man approaches you for sex and you tell him no, he will call you a whore and a slut and go tell everybody that you guys had sex anyway. So that's great. But in New Orleans, it was just so common for the gay men that I knew to be on cocaine, tripping acid all the time, doing DMT. And it was very similar in Dallas, but in Dallas it was meth, lots and lots of meth and shrooms and acid. And it was just not something I wanted to be a part of. I did end up relapsing, of all places, at an all-gay male crystal meth anonymous meeting that I went to because of my experiences earlier in my teens being addicted. And it was just a bunch of dealers there, basically, trying to prey on people that were getting clean. And it worked on me, and I ended up re-experiencing addiction issues and then having to get clean a second time, which was a living hell. More on that here in a second. Overall, my experience with gay men in that perspective is that it's so common for them to be using drugs and just having free sex, and if you don't want any part of that, you're looked down upon, and then people treat you like you're doing it anyway, even if you're not doing it. When you get pulled over by a police officer, they ask if you have cocaine on you or anything like that, and it's like, why would I have cocaine? Just because I'm a gay guy? It's just really expected. I've had my car searched 3 different times after being pulled over because they asked me if I had cocaine, and I'm like, no, I don't. But as a gay guy, I must have some coke up my butt, you know what I mean? It just sucks whenever that same behavior that comes from straight police officers is coming from the people that are supposed to have your back as other gay men, and they don't. Whenever I was really young, I started dating someone who, not, by force, not shoving it down my throat, but using mental manipulation got me to do meth, which is a really, really common drug in the gay community. I don't really think people are aware of that. It's commonly used as a sex drug. And he would just say things like, oh, well, if you don't do it and you want to go home, just remember, I know where your family lives. And just little things like that. And for 3 months, I stayed at his house. He kept my keys. If I tried to leave, he would tell me that he planted drugs in my car and that he was going to call the cops because he had my license plate and report me. Just little things like that. So I became a drug addict at a very young age because of it. And I was terrified. Drugs for me bring a lot of paranoia. Now I don't do anything because I can even take a pain pill without going through just extreme fear and paranoia because of the things that gay men have done to me. Far worse than anything any straight person has ever done to me. These people who introduced meth to my life were also white nationalists. So if you don't know what that is, it's basically a fancy term for white supremacist, someone who believes that the world needs to be controlled by white people. It's very, very common in the gay community. A lot of white supremacists, people with Nazi tattoos, somehow they're part of the Aryan Brotherhood. I don't know how, because the Aryans aren't generally very accepting of homosexuals. But there are sects within these large white supremacist groups that allow gay people in to peddle drugs and stuff like that, and take the charges, so they end up going to prison and the other people can keep doing the big stuff. I was privy to a lot of that at a really young age, and it was all over the gay community. There are porn companies involved, gay porn companies that are involved in that kind of stuff, and it's really a nightmare. It's all over the place. It's in bars, it's in clubs, it has completely saturated the entire country. Quick little insert here. If you are a homosexual watching this and you're familiar with the porn company Treasure Island Media, they have been accused multiple times of drugging people and raping them, gang raping them. There was one interesting case with a young man who was contracted to do 3 films with them. In the first one, he was drugged, and in the film you can tell he's essentially asleep the whole time. And in the second one, they were threatening to kill him the entire time that they were gangbanging him, essentially. And he would not do the third film that he was contracted to do, and the company took him to court, and he lost. He was contractually obligated to have sex with these men who drugged him and threatened to kill him, because there was no evidence that they did that, but he did sign the contract. And in my very quick opinion, I do not agree with the fact that a contract revolving your physical body having sex with another body should hold up in court. It's really funny, actually, that it's illegal for you to sell your body, prostitution or escorting, but it's perfectly legal to get paid to do it on camera, and then those big companies can make money selling it. It's literally the same thing, except one of them is filmed and distributed to others. So there you go. Do with that what you will. I'm not the only person I know has experienced this. I've seen other people go through it while I was going through it and just being completely lost, and oftentimes not having anywhere to go because their straight families don't accept them and won't let them come back. So this is what they have, and they don't understand what's going on. They're new to all of this too, and they don't know what to do, and they get lost in it at a really young age, and it really damages them and sometimes kills them. It can ruin their life. They can go to prison for years. Just the things that they can get wrapped up in without even having a choice. I was at a gay club when I was 23, and I was drugged and raped by an innumerable amount of men. I don't know how many. I was only awake for a very small portion of that at the end, where I was not able to move. And I got up and left. And the thing is that was crazy to me is that nobody would stop to say, hey, don't f that guy, he's sleeping. You know what I mean? Of all the people that must have passed by, all of the, again, gay men that must have passed by and seen it, nobody thought to say, hey, stop raping him, he's asleep. You know what I mean? Because you have to remember, gay male culture is still male culture, whether the mainstream media or the straight Christians want to admit that. It is still fueled by male hormones and apparently lack of morals. I was talked out of calling the police in that circumstance because of the straight men that were there who aren't really straight, you know, who had wives and kids and did not want to be outed. Which brings me to another thing. In the gay community, there are a lot of straight men, men with wives and kids. They still go to the clubs and they go to the bars and they go to the bathhouses. They're on Grindr, cheating on their wives, and they'll never come out because their families are unaccepting, and now they have a family of their own that they obviously don't want to abandon, but they're not willing to stay loyal to the lifestyle that they chose. And yes, that one actually was a choice. And that really changes the culture too, because we're dealing with internalized homophobia. So people who not only hate themselves, but they will go around hating on other gay people to keep their beard, to stay under the radar so that people don't assume that they're gay. So we're not only dealing with hatred from the straight people, but we're dealing with hatred from the wannabe straight people, as well as hatred from the gay people who have been so heavily abused that they don't necessarily know how to treat people with kindness anymore. The gay community overall has a very large culture of, if you don't fit into this specific box, then you don't fit in, you're gross, and we're all gonna hate on you and trash you, basically, is my experience. Again, within a 3-year time period, just so you guys have some understanding here, I lived in 13 different cities and towns across Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, and New Mexico. I traveled quite a lot because I was just trying to kind of find a place where I fit in, and I discovered at the end of that maybe the South isn't right for me because I don't really fit in anywhere here in any community at all. I find that the moral values here don't exist in others the way they exist within myself. And if they do, I've yet to find a group of people who really share my morals in common with me. Now I want to talk about BDSM in the gay community and in gay culture. So in BDSM, it's actually something that I was heavily involved in my youth, just because those are the people that I ended up finding, and I didn't really, I guess, know that there were other options, or that there could just be an option of don't hang out with any of them. Hey, that's an idea. Oh, I know that now. In BDSM, there's something basically called TPE. It means total power exchange. It is when you have a dominant who is in control of a submissive. The words faggot, slave, slut, it are commonly used for the submissive. Master, sir are commonly used for the dominant. And in this culture, I've noticed that there's a lot of psychopathic and sociopathic and narcissistic behaviors of hurting people, torturing people, harming people, and many people genuinely believe that certain gay men are men and other ones are faggots. Overall, this community involves a lot of abuse, a lot of violence, a lot of sexual slavery, a lot of drugs, a lot of drugs. Again, white nationalism is very present in the BDSM gay culture. I have a few ideas, of course, of why it is this way. One being that, like I said earlier, the world is so heavily abusive toward gay men that they kind of had to go off and, create their own little world here, where they were responding to the world with the mindset of someone who has been abused, and their minds did what was necessary to make them be able to feel even a shred of peace and individuality, and peace within themselves with who they are. And this is what has ended up happening. The other thing is that gay men are humans, and as we all know, humans peddle drugs also. It's not just gay men. Humans rape other people. It's not just gay men. Humans bash other people and hate on other people. But gay culture itself, it almost celebrates this idea of, judging people and being the queen and being better than everybody else. And that's something that I think really needs to be wiped out, because it is that behavior that has made us this way. But it wasn't our behavior that made us this way. It was the abusive behavior of others, abusing us, that made our minds kind of go in this direction. And if we can recognize that that is potentially one of the causes, then we can understand that as a marginalized minority who has dealt with centuries, even millennia, of being violently killed by, the straight white Christian supremacy that has created all culture, essentially, not all culture, but you know what I mean, across the world. We don't have to be a part of that, but getting most gay men to sit down and really recognize the flaws within their own thought process and the flaws within the way they treat others is essentially impossible, because they exist in a mindset where they can do no wrong, because that is the mindset they have to be in order to survive, because it is the mindset that the world has put them into. I find gay men will very commonly preach equality for all, but what they really mean is special treatment for themselves. Pride, at one point in time, was a protest, as we've all learned recently, if you did not know already before. Pride has turned into a parade of drunk gay men in thongs, and that's not really something that I'm proud of. I'm totally free when it comes to nudity and stuff. I actually believe that, at least topless nudity should be perfectly legal across the globe. But what equality isn't is spending your time abusing others and bashing others and hating on others for not fitting into your very small box, while expecting yourself to have free reign to do all of the things that you're doing, but never allowing others to do the same. That's not what equality is. Equality isn't being expected to do whatever the hell you want. You can, go to bars and get messed up until 4 o'clock in the morning and you're fine, and that's just gay culture. That's what I'm talking about. The behavior overall in the community, again, that I have experienced, that's what it has been. And it's really disturbing to me. And I think that there is a way to reverse this and get us to a place that is positive and happy and uplifting, and a place where we use our experiences with abuse to be empathetic toward others and understand that everyone experiences pain, everyone experiences abuse, and we can genuinely care for others, and we can honestly want to help others instead of just caring for ourselves, and instead of living in this space of egotism, instead of riding our horse through town. We can get down to the ground level and walk with everybody and understand that we are all human beings and we all deserve to be treated kindly. Alright, well, I feel like this video is getting kind of long, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop it here. There's a lot more to this, but I could talk about this for hours. I could talk about this for days. I could talk about this for my lifetime, so I'm just gonna end it now. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're still here, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Let me know if your experience has been different. I'm gonna tell you right now, if it's been different, I'm wondering who your friends are. Basically, moral of the story, let's actually treat each other with kindness, and let's actually treat each other with respect. Okay, love you guys so much. Bye!